Hello, hope you've all had a good week. Just a few things I would like to go over with you as we get into week 4. I'm sure you're concerned about the test this week, and so a few things that I will share with you about it. There are 29 questions. Some of them are multiple choice. There are some true false. There are some matching and a couple of short answer. You have 60 minutes to complete the test whenever you begin. Once you start it, you can't stop and finish it later, so be sure that you have a block of time set aside to take the test. During the test, you're allowed to use the chapter summaries that you've prepared and submitted this week for chapters 1 through 14 of the Duval and Hayes textbook. And hopefully, if you've put some effort into those, they will have you prepared. There aren't any trick questions. They are designed just to check and see if you are grasping the material that we've covered. Things like what should you take into consideration when you're trying to determine the context of a passage, some of the fallacies or errors that we fall into as we study the Bible. There aren't any trick questions. It is pretty much on target with the course. A couple of observations I would like to make as we are nearing the halfway point in the class. One of the things that it warns about in the textbook is bringing your own presuppositions into your interpretation of a text, which we can't totally avoid that, but we do need to be aware of it. And a couple of areas of concern that I have are some of the students have brought in their own church and Bible experience, and they're trying to interpret the Bible in light of their church background. We need to interpret Scripture in light of itself. So get back into the context of the passage, and it might suggest to you that some of the practices in your church might not be as biblical as you had always thought they were. They are just your own local traditions and customs. So be aware of that. Don't try to fit the Bible into your church experience. Instead, fit your church experience into the Bible. Let the Bible be the guideline. Also, there are a couple of you that keep trying to force your theological perspective into your interpretation of Scripture. And while it is good to have a systematic theology, even within that context, your theology should allow the Scripture to interpret your theology, not your theology to interpret Scripture. And so sometimes we try to force a meaning on a passage that fits in our theological biases that's really not there. And so be aware of that, guard against that. We've had some interesting discussion boards the last couple of weeks. I appreciate your participation and your earnestness in that. This week, we're going to be studying primarily New Testament interpretation. So take a look at the section in your text on the New Testament, and particularly with regard to the Gospels, is excellent in interpreting. In the Klein, Blomberg, and Hubbard text, their information on interpreting the New Testament is excellent. Also, their information on a four-step methodology for legitimate interpretation, I think it's excellent. Would help anyone, anywhere, anytime. So just keep up the good work. Don't get behind in your reading or in your submissions, and God bless and have a great week. I will see you next week.